Hello and welcome to the Thoughtful Realtor podcast. I'm Connie Chung.
I'm Cliff Tsang.
And I am Kenny Gong, and we are the founders and partners of Willamar Real Estate.
This is a show for those interested and invested in the world of residential real estate.
Every episode, we sit down for insights, stories, and conversations about all things in the real estate market today, running a real estate team in California, NorCal and SoCal, and finding our way as leaders and business partners.
And today we have another episode of a 3-part series. We are sharing our experiences of buying our first home, what we learned and what we wish we could have done differently, and all the insights especially as insiders in this profession. So who are we going to have in the hot seat today?
Connie looks ready.
Oh, Connie. Okay, Connie, we're going to talk to Connie about
over with.
the first home that you purchased.
Okay, first home that we purchased. Well, you know how a lot of clients, homebuyer clients, are kind of on the spectrum of houses that they feel like they need to see in order to feel comfortable and confident in writing an offer. And usually it's the ones who can do so in a weekend of touring to those who feel like they need to see 50, 100 homes and have like their spreadsheets. I will say I fit kind of on the spectrum of needing to see a handful of homes, but not even needing to. It's just, I think I am the type of person who sees potential in almost any home. So I think Brian and I saw 2 homes, and the first home was in the dog patch of San Francisco. I think we wrote an offer on it. We didn't get it. It was pretty competitive. It was a single family home. And so Kenny, kind of like you mentioned in the last episode of buying your home, that realtor competitive spirit in me came out, and I wanted to get into a home immediately after, or kind of just start thinking more seriously about getting a home. And we were still kind of casually looking, though. I think we had the idea of wanting a single family home in the city. But one afternoon, we were dog sitting. We were meeting up our cousins to do a doggy play date at Alamo Square Park.
Yeah.
And we saw an open house sign. Even though I work as a realtor and I love going into open houses, sometimes I also do not like going to open houses just because then I have to like turn it on and, do the whole thing. And I just, I was out trying to enjoy an afternoon and not trying to talk with another realtor. So I actually just stayed outside, and Brian went inside to look at the home while I was out with the dogs. And he's like, "Oh, Connie, I really like it." And I was like, "Oh, great." It turned out to be a duplex, which is a 2-unit building. And we weren't looking at them, but Brian, as you may or may not know, can be very picky at times. And I am of the mentality that if Brian likes something, we must go for it, because I tend to like a lot of things. So I didn't even end up going into the open house because I was just like, But when we got home, I pulled up the listing. And funny enough, I learned that I was actually in that home. I remembered this home was on the market 2 years prior, and it sold that time. But my colleague had listed it, and I actually helped her host the open houses like 2 years before. So I remembered parts of the home, and it was kind of like, okay, I can see this happening. We chatted with a few different lenders, and the nice thing is, because it's a duplex, the lender, it was at a much higher price point than we could originally afford and were originally looking at. But with it being a duplex and having a second unit to bring in income for, if you're renting it out, our lender was able to qualify us at a higher purchase price because of that rental income for the second unit. So we kind of worked out the numbers and did things very quick, because as a realtor, as day-to-day, we kind of already know the value of homes, just being out in the field and helping clients, pulling comps for different properties, but having a general sense of what kind of the value is for certain homes. The tricky part was I was just into finishing up my second year as a realtor. And for those who don't know, realtors are independent contractors, and lenders require 2 years of tax returns for independent contractor status. So I had not filed for my second year, and a lot of lenders were like, "Nope, sorry, we can't lend." So we called up a bunch and finally found one mortgage broker that was able to lend. They just needed more documentation, me to file my returns as fast as possible and kind of do a number of things. So just being of the mindset to like make it happen. I think we saw it one weekend right before Thanksgiving, and I think on the day before Thanksgiving we wrote our offer. We were the only ones on the table, and then had a little back and forth, but then we got the home.
So amazing. And it's an incredible, what an opportunity, because it's a beautiful, beautiful property that is in a fantastic neighborhood and no other offers because of probably seasonality and right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We got so lucky. I think it was very much of the season for this home. And right, around the holidays, people tend to leave and go on vacation. This was back in 2017, I think. But yeah, we got super lucky. It always helps when you're just negotiating one-on-one with the seller versus having multiple parties on the table. But kind of going back to even just like, how did I know if it will, just being able to move quickly, the location, like knowing it was in Alamo Square, prime heart and, center of the city. It almost didn't matter what the inside of the home looked like. Because I was like, never did I think I could buy here. But if we're able to make it work, let's make it work.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Side note, I kind of have a story attached to that because I remember when I first came by to your home on Golden Gate, I remember we walked up the stairs and you had that really fancy like dining table. And that's when we first started talking about like me potentially joining Connie and Kenny. And I remember thinking, wow, this home is so beautiful. This desk is so nice. Connie's made it. I need to be on my best behavior and need to interview well, and say the right things.
I gotta turn it on. That's
So
so funny.
that was a really really beautiful home on Golden Gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And funny, I feel like it kind of worked out for the best because I'm sure you would have liked living in the dog patch, but Alamo Square is just I think it's a nicer neighborhood, more family oriented neighborhood.
Yeah, it was so kind of mind blowing to think back because it wasn't like, okay, these are the neighborhoods I want to be in, or we didn't really have our checklist per se, but kind of instinctually knew like what we wanted, just something walkable and with enough space for us, potential to add more value. And it's kind of crazy to think that we landed on a Victorian duplex, like prime quintessential San Francisco style home. And it was really fun, really old, learned a lot of things about home ownership with that home. But really it came down to location, just so central and walkable and great. We were only a block and a half away from Boba Guys. What more do you want?
That house really represented a lot for you personally and professionally even, because also at that time, you moved from Mission Bay, and a lot of your business was also in Mission Bay. So moving to a central part of town also really shifted our business at the time. So I'm curious to know, when you think of that house, what are some things that it makes you think about where you were personally and professionally?
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, that brings me back to a little bit of memory lane because I remember having some pause, come to think of it, because I was working out of our financial district office. Most of the business was sort of in the financial district, Mission Bay, kind of the new condominium downtown space, and I had a good rhythm. We had a local community shuttle. I had my local gym. All my rooting was in that part of town. And it's so funny because for those outside of San Francisco, you think anything within the city is going to be convenient, but I would say you move one town over and it could be a whole different, way of life. But I think it was just sort of the leaning into adapting and changing. And kind of, if I think back to how I grew and learned from that experience, it was just like let's go for this big change. There's a great opportunity. I know it's a solid investment given the location and neighborhood, even though like thinking, oh my God, this is so much money. And it's still the prime of the market, 2017. Like things are so competitive and you're just constantly paying a higher price each time. But trusting, like, if we can make this work financially, this is a strong buy and we will be okay. So let's figure out how to make it, and everything else will fall into its place. And fast forwarding 2 years later, who would have thought we'd sell it 2 years later at $1,000,000 more than we bought it for, or half a million
$500,000
more. I know, kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
So much of, I would say, I am a very instinctual person. Like I act on instinct and don't think too much. I just follow my gut, and I will say that pays off. And I think the more that I do that on higher stake decisions, it's a reminder of like, Connie, you've got this. Keep leaning into it.
Yeah. Was it just over 2 years that you were there? I can't remember how long were you there.
Yeah.
Because did you have to wait for your 2 years for, no, that was 60th, but
No,
for your exemption?
I think it was just a month or so over the 2-year mark. Yeah. Or we just hit it. So.
Yeah. Which is also so wild because 2 years, there are so many memories that I have in that house that it feels like not 2 years. Like it feels significantly longer because so much happened. Not only memories, our memories, personal memories, of friendships and dinners and hangout sessions and all of that, but you also put in so much work into it in 2 years and really added a ton of value too. Do you want to talk a little bit about
That's true.
what you all
Yeah,
did?
so much. I feel like so much of our life and kind of pivotal moments in our life milestones and our career milestones happened. So when we first bought the home, it's on the older end, it's a Victorian, and we did the kitchen, and it was just me and Brian at the time, no kids, and we're like, let's just do the kitchen and live in it. And I will say, after that remodel, Brian and I said, no more living in a remodel. Like as much as we can, if we can avoid doing work and not living in the space, we will lean towards that. Because
Was that the downstairs unit or the upstairs unit?
no, the upstairs unit. Yeah. Even though we've done work to both in different kind of capacities. So upstairs we did kind of all new countertops, nothing even too big, but it was still a mess. I think we just got new countertops and new appliances, and that was enough dust to be like, never again. Downstairs, what we did, because it was kind of the older square tiles on the countertops, we actually regrouted the tiles, which is so cool because it made that downstairs unit, being a rental, just feel so brand new. And the tiles were really cute. They were just like a classic square. So it was nice to be able to keep that. And then over the course of time, we remodeled our bathroom. We did new flooring and new paint.
That's right. The closet?
Oh, we removed a closet in our bedroom just to open up more space. Changed out some light fixtures. It was really amazing to go through that experience, because I will say this was the first time being able to do some work to see the impact of like what changes can make. So that's why we always tell clients now, painting and lighting make all the difference, and those are probably the lowest cost things you can do that will have a big impact. And I'm trying to think, I don't think we painted our unit before we moved in, but at some point we later painted it, which I will always tell clients, if you can paint before you move into a home, that's also the ideal situation.
You also had your floors all done while you were living there.
Yeah, how did we do that? I think I'm trying to imagine doing that now with kids, and that just seems impossible. But I think pre-kids, you're more susceptible to pain in that way.
Yeah.
That's really cool to see, because was that your first kind of rehab project
Yeah.
that you went through? Yeah, because then kind of connecting the dots in hindsight, it's like that I think gave you confidence to do some updates on 60th and maybe do a potentially bigger project. And then that gave you confidence for San Marino too, I'm sure, having gone through the ropes before.
Totally. Yeah, it was such a good primer for all the bigger projects. And it's so funny because This came from, we did some projects on the condo we were living in Mission Bay that Brian had bought. And funny enough, we like painted one wall. No, we painted a few walls, and that was our project. So yeah, to have gone from like a few accent walls to
The blue, right? Let's do
yeah, the blue, and there's like a moody brown in the bedroom. Um, to think those were big things that we had done at that time, it's funny because it gives perspective of like, okay, well, let's inch into trying this out and this. And yeah, it's definitely paved the way for taking more on. And certainly we've learned so much along the way with just how to communicate with different tradespeople, how to collect bids, how to know who to hire, how to pull permits, kind of just how to know that things are supposed to be chaotic and that's okay and that's normal too. Yeah.
Maybe even when to let a contractor go too.
Yes,
and when to move on.
definitely. Yeah. And the cool thing is we've built a really great portfolio of good people that just from personal use have recommended to clients, and to see that kind of help build the businesses of other trades folks through our client network is really cool.
I'm curious, because this was your first home that you purchased, what did that mean to you?
Oh. I always thought that I would be a homeowner. Of course, like it's something I just assumed, and it's something I assumed my husband, whoever that would be, would take that on. But to be a realtor and drive that process and feel so empowered to know how to negotiate, to know how to read these contracts that I thought I would just assume, my partner would do that. To kind of really be the owner in that experience and relationship was so powerful and so empowering that it's not as daunting as I assumed it would be, that I would, want to pass it off, but something so tangible, and to be able to share that with our clients and to help others feel empowered in that process, especially when we have, our single women clients. It's like, I'm always so amazed when women want to buy their own homes, and to be part of their journeys is a huge honor, because it's, having these naive thoughts of like, oh, I'll kind of be on the back end of it. To think that, I'm just like, wow, Connie, good thing you didn't, and good thing you drove the process and kind of know how to go about it, because it's not as overwhelming as you imagined. And so I would say it's just so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were, let's see, 28 when that happened? 29?
28.
28. It's incredible. Like, it's really, really an amazing thing to think about someone who's 28 purchasing a Victorian duplex in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, the work ethic and the accomplishment of where you were by 28 years old.
Yeah. Pretty.
I've so enjoyed hearing both of your stories, because there's kind of an element of like working really hard, but also like this element of like serendipity as well, of just kind of letting life unfold the way it not even should, just letting life unfold and then letting it happen. And it sounds like that's what led you to Golden Gate, and so many memories and all of those good things. And yeah, it's just a nice reminder to me and our audience of just like life unfolds in a good way if you just let it happen.
Just had a good feeling, that gut instinct, the numbers worked out. And we kind of like what we tell our clients, if the numbers work out for you, it checks 80 to 85% of what you're looking for, go for it, because so much more will unfold afterwards. And to think of, gosh, I just remembered we had so many fun dinner parties, client events. We did an ice cream social. We celebrated Mia's first birthday there. Brian did an eat with event there where we cooked for strangers. So
Photo shoot was there. Holiday photo shoot was there.
Oh my gosh, totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Tacos were there. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's
an amazing thing.
something so powerful about having a home to like ground you and also to build upon. But in addition to that, just kind of the other life events and milestones and things you go through that are kind of so connected deeply into that.
And something also that you said that I would love to provide some nuance to for folks that are listening that are thinking about buying their first home is that the numbers working does not necessarily mean that they are easy numbers to work with.
Yes.
Sometimes it's actually the numbers working. It's very, very hard to see because they're big numbers. And so similar to, what you had thought about, like, oh my gosh, this is so much more than we ever thought that we would spend for a home. And that, I want to acknowledge that that's scary. That's very, very a scary place to be because it does feel like big numbers. So the numbers working out aren't necessarily that they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to, and sometimes they're like, yeah, in my case, it was like, yeah, I spent less than I thought I was going to spend. But in more often the case, it is you got to spend a lot of money and realize that the numbers working is still going to be scary. But in the long haul, that's where the numbers really can work out. And it worked out for, Connie, and it's worked out for so many of the people that we have helped. I mean, the hundreds of people that we have helped buy and whose homes we have seen increase in value just because of appreciation, not even because they've added value, but just because of the trajectory of the market. And I think that's always just really helpful to have as context.
Yeah. And to add to that, it doesn't come, even though we're in the profession and insiders in that way, it doesn't come without its own insecurities. I will say, having written, a good handful of offers and buying a few more homes in the process, every time I submit an offer and, we're waiting to hear back from the seller, I lose sleep and can't sleep. And it's such a good reminder of like, wow, this is what our clients go through each time, and to really hold that for them. But also, even after the purchase, can't help but sometimes look at what else is in the area. Like, was that a good buy? Oh my gosh, what did we just do? Like, look at this home just came on the market. So yeah, to those listening, know that it's all normal. And I have to remind myself of it too. It's like, it was all meant to be, and it's all going to work out in the end.
Yep, it's great. Should we end there? Thank you so much to Connie for sharing all of this amazing insight and the story of buying your first home.
That was so fun.
It was really, really fun. And thank you so much for taking us back down memory lane.
I think I went to one of those taco night. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was like that. Was it the driveway on the side of the home? Yeah. And then there's a backyard in the back. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Good times.
Yeah,
Good times.
good times.
Yeah, we didn't even
Good
talk about
times.
landscaping the backyard, but that was a fun adventure.
Oh my gosh. And that was such a beautiful decision.
Yeah.
Because that backyard became something that you could use. Before it was a little bit scary.
Yes, definitely. Didn't want to go back there.
I think hearing about all these design things too are really cool because I see that as one of your many fortes and strengths, Connie. So it's like allows you to add value to the home and showcase, like you're kind of working in your genius zone too when you're like designing. And it's just really, really cool to see the final product. And it's not a skill set that many people have, I think to someone who maybe design comes naturally, you're like, oh, maybe it's like, I don't have that eye for things, and it's not easy to pick up either. And you just design things so beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah, I love design, and I actually thought about becoming an interior designer over being a realtor. So it's such a wonderful way to marry all of these different passions together.
Well, that is the end of another episode of The Thoughtful Realtor. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us and listening. And we would love to hear what it was like to buy your first home if you've done so already.
And please, share your stories with us. Let us know what it was like going through that experience for yourself. And you can always find us at willowmar.com or on Instagram at willowmar___.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. We read each one of your reviews and your comments, so please share the love. And share this with friends or colleagues who you think would love to hear from this episode. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.